Just put Vance down for a nap, and today's video is actually sponsored by Battleborn Batteries, our favorite battery company ever. We install Battleborn batteries in pretty much every one of our van conversions. We're gonna talk about electrical today, which can be one of the most daunting and overwhelming parts of a van build. I know it was for us when we first started. So we're gonna break down what wires we use, 110 versus 12 volt, all the components that we are putting into this 159 extended Ram Promaster. We're not really gonna give step-by-step exact details on everything because it really depends on what you want to power in your own van, kind of how you're gonna be living in your van, all that kind of stuff. Power needs definitely vary, so your system can vary from what we're installing in this van. Huh, babe?
Exactly.
So with all that said, let's get into it. Check out, something exciting came in the mail the other day. And we didn't really make a big deal about this because for us it's never really been about the number of followers or subscribers or views or anything like that. We've always really just tried to provide you guys with valuable content and help you in your van build or van life. We always try to help and give good tips. So this is pretty exciting though. We did reach a milestone on YouTube, 100,000 subscribers, and they sent us a nice plaque. So we gotta hang this bad boy up. Pretty exciting. We had to keep 40 Hours of Freedom. That was our OG name. If you've been around for a while, that was our original brand name, was 40 Hours of Freedom, when we were living and traveling in our Sprinter van, because it really was about doing what it was we were passionate about and having 40 hours of freedom. That didn't mean we didn't work. We still work, but we love what we do, and so for us that is 40 hours of freedom. We're also Sara and Alex James, so we had to have both on there. What do you think, bud?
He says, you got me plugged, I'm happy. All right, let's do this. So, I've got this fancy display here of the components that we are going to be putting into this 159 ProMaster Extended. Just to give you a little bit of background on this build, because it is important to understand who you are building for and what you will be using it for in order to size your system and understand what you're gonna need. So we are building for Michele and David. They're gonna be a couple living full-time on the road in this ProMaster. They're gonna need to charge 2 laptops, cameras, all that fun stuff that they need to live and work remotely. So what we have hooked them up with are 3 100 amp hour Battleborn lithium iron phosphate batteries. What are really cool about these batteries? Number one, they're 25% lighter and about 25% smaller than traditional AGM or lead acid batteries, which means less weight in your vehicle, easier to put in and take out, and another really cool feature is that you can actually utilize about 99% of this battery, the amp hourage. So with a traditional lead acid or AGM battery, say if you have 100 amp hours, you can really only drain that battery down to about 50% before you start to decrease the life cycles of the battery. With these batteries, you can actually drain these things down almost 100% without impacting the life cycle of the battery. So you're gonna be able to use more of the amp hours. So when you set up a 300 amp hour battery system with these batteries, you actually have 300 amp hours you can use. Very cool. Super proud to partner with Battleborn. This video is actually sponsored by Battleborn, and we have put these in about 7 of our vans now and couldn't be happier with the results of using these Battleborn batteries. They are made in the US and made in Reno. So we have these 12 volt batteries. How are we going to charge them? So I'm a big fan in any van having at least 2 different ways that you can charge your batteries. We are not connecting to the alternator on this vehicle, so the 2 ways that we are charging, number one, they're gonna have 300 watts of solar. We're using 3 100 watt solar panels from Renogy that are gonna be mounted on their Luminous roof rack on the roof. That is gonna be running through this 40 amp MPPT Renogy Rover solar controller, and it's really important that if you're gonna be using lithium batteries, you make sure that you get a solar controller that works with lithium batteries, and the Renogy Rover does. Another thing that's nice about this is it has this LCD display on the front, so you can look at things like the voltage of your solar panels, the voltage of your system, and also how many amp hours you're bringing in from your solar panels daily. So again, we really like that LCD display on the Renogy Rover. The second way that we're going to be charging these batteries is through the Victron 3000 watt inverter charger. So we're gonna have a shore power cable coming off of this inverter charger that will allow you to plug into a campground, into a house outlet, into an outlet on the side of the gas station, wherever you find on the side of the road that you need about 3 to 5 hours to totally charge your battery bank if you're not getting sufficient sun to continue to charge your battery system. So now that we've talked about how we're going to be charging these batteries, let's talk about what we have coming off of the batteries. We're going to break down the electrical system coming off the batteries into two key areas. One is the 12 volt system and one is the 110 system. So the 12 volt is anything that is a DC or direct connection to the batteries. I am going to be wiring these batteries in parallel, so this will maintain and be a 12 volt system. So when I connect my 12 volt appliances like my fridge, like my 12 volt lights, like my LED toe kick lights, like my water pump, all that stuff will be coming right off the batteries through this 12 volt fuse block that, again, I will also be mounting into my electrical compartment in one of the panels. That way you can easily access this and swap out a fuse if you need to. So anything this 12 volt will be connected through this and then to the batteries. Additionally, instead of the 12 volt system, you have your 110 system. So the Bosch 2.5 gallon hot water heater that we'll be putting in this vehicle so that they can have hot showers, that is going to be coming off of the 110 system. The outlets, like a house outlet that they will have wired into the van so that they can charge their laptops and things, all of that will also be coming off of the 110 system. And the 110 system comes off of the inverter charger. So the inverter actually has to be connected and turned on in order for any of the outlets to work. And that is why, again, we wire that that is also why we wire that inverter remote into the compartment. So all they have to do is go into an upper cabinet, flip a switch, and they can use any of their outlets that they need to, or turn on their hot water heater. One of the things that we do to save power in the system overall is we connect a switch to the hot water heater outlet. So this allows us to turn off the power running to the outlet that the hot water heater is plugged in. Because when the hot water heater kicks on, it's gonna pull about 1500 watts for about 3 minutes while it's charging that hot water heater. Now, if you're turning on your inverter so that you can charge a laptop, you don't need hot water, so you don't need that draw coming off your system. So again, we wire that switch usually in the face of one of the benches so that they can easily turn on or turn off their hot water heater and have the ability to use the inverter without getting that power draw coming off the hot water heater. Okay, now that we've talked about components, let's talk about the wiring that you need to make this all work. One of the things I wanted to mention is this 500 amp fuse from Spartan. Now what this does, this goes between your inverter and your batteries. This is different than a traditional A&L fuse holder that you might find in a car stereo system because it has a very heavy duty base. So if for some reason the fuse does blow, you're not going to melt down the base also. The base is going to be able to withstand it. For the majority of the wiring that we run in the van, we use a 16 gauge 2-strand marine grade low voltage wire. So this is really nice because it has a protective sleeve on it. Inside it also has a red and a black wire. Now that is great because it makes it really easy to identify what the positive wire is and what the negative wire is when you go to connect this to your 12 volt fuse block later, or you're connecting it to the component that you're using, like your pump or your batteries or your lights. We get this off of Amazon. It is marine grade and it's also very pliable, which makes it easy to work with. When we're running all of our low voltage wire, I also love to use a label maker. That way, when I go later on, I know exactly what every wire is going to. I just write up a little label for it, stick it directly to the wire, and then when I cut off the wire, I'll leave it hanging there. So you can see right now in our electrical compartment where I will be putting the 12 volt fuse block and their electrical panel. Right now I've got a bunch of wires hanging out, but they're all labeled so I know exactly what to do with them. To connect all of our batteries together in our 12 volt system, we do connect our batteries in parallel, and I use 2-aught battery cable that I order off of Amazon from a company called Windy Nation. What's really nice about this 2-aught battery cable is that it is nice and pliable, so it's easy to work with. I like to order my own and make my own cables so that I can make it to exactly what length I need to. In the beginning, I was just buying pre-made 12-inch, 18-inch, 24-inch battery cables, and I was really limited with how I could set up my electrical system in my electrical compartment underneath the passenger back bench. But with this, I can go ahead and measure it out and make it exactly what size I need to. I ordered this off of Amazon, along with both 3/8 and 5/16 battery terminals. So these, I use my hydraulic terminal connector to crimp these, and my heat gun and heat shrink. The same thing with my 8-gauge wire that I use to run between my battery bank and my solar controllers, and the battery bank and the 12-volt fuse block. So again, I have my own terminal connectors and heat shrink. Heat shrink gun is one of the best things that you can invest in if you're going to do your own electrical system. You will need it. So that covers the 12-volt side of our electrical system. Now let's talk about the 110. For the 110, this is everything that's coming off of the inverter and then running to a traditional outlet like you would find in your house. So you can plug in laptops, you can plug in hot water heaters, all that, those bigger items that need a 110 power draw. Coming off of my inverter, I'm running to this breaker box, and this breaker box is a 70 amp 2-space breaker box that I just picked up at Home Depot. And I have 2 different breakers coming off of this. I have a 20 amp and a 15 amp circuit breaker. All of my outlets that are used for in the kitchen or underneath the bench for them to be able to plug in their laptop and charge while they're sitting at their back benches working, those are all coming off of a 15 amp breaker and are running to a 15 amp plug. And I like to use these water resistant plugs when I'm putting these around the van. For my hot water heater, because that can draw about 1600 watts, you actually want a 20 amp circuit for that. So I have a separate 20 amp circuit that is wired to the outlet that the hot water heater is plugged into. And in between the outlet and the breaker box, I also wire this interrupter switch. And I put this in a 2-gang panel or 2-gang box, just like this, in the front of the passenger side bench with an outlet. And what this allows me to do is shut off the power going to the hot water heater, like I talked about before, so that the hot water heater doesn't always have to be coming on every time you turn on the inverter from your inverter remote. So to wire this breaker box coming off of the inverter, I use a 12-2 Romex cable, which is this yellow cable that you see right here. It's a 2-strand with a positive and a negative, which is a black and a white, and then it also has a grounding, which is just a copper wire. So I'm going to run this from the inverter to the circuit breaker box, and then this same 12-2 wire is what's running to the 20 amp outlet that the hot water heater is plugged into. All of my other outlets, which are just 15 amp, are run with a 14-2 Romex cable, which again, you can just find these at Home Depot. So I hope that you guys found this video informative and helpful. There's a lot that goes into putting your electrical system into your van and making sure that it's all working correctly. There's other stuff that we probably didn't cover. We didn't get quite as far on the electrical this week as we wanted to, because we kind of got sidetracked with putting some upper cabinets in, because I have to have the upper cabinets in before I can go ahead and wire the 12-volt fuse block in the electrical panel, because all that stuff does go into one of the upper cabinets.
Come back next week so you can see Vance. He's now 8 weeks. It's kind of cool, you guys get to see him weekly, and he's ready to eat, so.
Yes, and we did not get as far on the electrical in the van this week as we were hoping to, but next week we will show you guys the electrical panel, the electrical compartment, all of that finished wired so you can see how it looks. But we did get upper cabinets in this week.
Oh yeah, we didn't show you guys that. Let's show you that real quick. And if you like this video, as always, be sure to like it, subscribe. You can hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when our videos are up. And check it out. There's one upper, and there's the other. Still got to get the face frame on. So this is where the electrical compartment's going to be. And as you can see, like Alex was saying, he has everything labeled so he knows what wires are what in here. So pretty cool. And we got to go feed this little guy. So that's it. See you guys next week. Bye.